get to the quarterbacks first. We have 6 quarterbacks that are really of note in this draft. Obviously, the big 3, then joined by J.J. McCarthy, who could slide in depending on where you think, and then Michael Penix and Bo Nix on the back end. We'll start, of course, with the guy who's going to go number 1 overall, and with whom I assume we're all going to match him with the Bears, Caleb Williams. I'm curious what you guys think, and maybe you've answered this on here and I just forgot, but where does Caleb Williams stack up as a prospect for you guys? I mean, we're matching him up with the Bears. Like we don't need to mess around with it. But where does he stack up as a prospect relative to other recent top picks, whether it's like a Trevor Lawrence? I mean, I go as far back as you want, Andrew Luck, in that sort of range.
To me, I mean, he stacks up right up there, up towards the top. I mean, I think when you look at the fact that he was a Heisman Trophy winner, that's one thing, obviously an individual accolade, but he also provided hope to a Southern Cal program that I don't even know how you want to describe, what was kind of taking place there with Clay Helton, and then you get Lincoln Riley, but really without Caleb Williams, you kind of, peel back the layers to it, and you're like, he didn't have great protection. He didn't have any defense. It was pretty much Caleb Williams, carrying that team. I'm really curious to see what they'll be without him this year. So to me, I would put him up there amongst the kind of Joe Burrows who came off the greatest season we've ever seen in college football history for a quarterback, in my opinion. Trevor Lawrence obviously was one that was up there too, but also, he took over at a program at Clemson. It's not like they were struggling before he got there. I think it's one of the differences in looking at, to me at least, Caleb, was the way he uplifted Southern Cal to be as competitive as they could be, considering just how decimated they were, and obviously what I think they're going to be. Like, I'm not really sure how they're going to fare transition to the Big Ten life after Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I'm with you, Brady. I actually put him a little higher. I put him, and I've lost you for a second, but when you look at, past number 1 picks, I put him in that rare air with like Andrew Luck, just because of what you talked about, right? When you talk about going to USC, a program that is known for its tradition, and it kind of had fallen off by the wayside, and what he was able to do to elevate that program. Same thing, Andrew Luck in Stanford for the longest time. It was going back and forth between whether this was a basketball school, this was, a school that people go to for the educational purposes, and in regards to them actually competing. When Andrew Luck got there, he changed the mindset of that team. It became a gritty team, right? And they took on that mantra with their head coach, Jim Harbaugh, at the helm. So when you talk about Caleb Williams, and we know the film wasn't as good this year as it was last year when he won the Heisman, but Brady, when you look at the film, it looks like he was pressing a lot, right? Because he knew that his defense was probably going to give up 50 points every game. So he at times tried to be Superman out there. The thing that I really love about him, that yes, people get enamored with the off-platform throws and, the 60-yard runs. But the thing that I really love, Brady, and that I saw that you could really lean on in regards to what you'll see him at the next level is you saw him at times throwing rhythm in at times, right? So it's not like it isn't on tape. You see it on tape, so he can live within the offense. And going into a situation, Will and Brady, with the Chicago Bears, I can't say that I remember in recent history a number 1 pick, more specifically a quarterback, going into a similar situation like he will be going into Chicago. They've tried to do everything possible to make sure whoever they draft, and we're all assuming it's Caleb Williams, will have sustained success, right? They traded for Keenan Allen. They got DJ Moore last year. They could potentially get another pass catcher in this year's draft. They took an offensive tackle at the number 10 spot last year. Their defense, they traded, got Montez Sweat. They're a top 5 defense now. So now Caleb Williams doesn't feel like he has to go out there and put up 50 points, right? Like the team is going to be able to uplift him. He's not going to have to uplift the team. So to me, I would put him in that rare air where we put Andrew Luck at in regards to like former number 1 picks.
All right, right down the board a little bit, we got Drake May and Jayden Daniels. So my mock draft went up on Tuesday, my 3rd mock draft. I had Drake May going 2nd overall to the Commanders. I realized that flies in the face of the current odds. There were all the reports out there that it's Jayden Daniels is going to be number 2. The odds in, yes, Brady. The odds in Vegas say it'll be Jayden Daniels number 2, but the odds in Vegas are reactionary. They're not predictive when it comes to the NFL draft. I'm curious, Brady, where you would match up Jayden Daniels. What are you laughing at? You're muted, Brady. Let's try to be professional.
Hold on. Is that true? Because
Yeah.
they're predictive, obviously, with Caleb Williams, but they're not predictive when it comes to the number 2 pick and Jayden Daniels.
No. Seriously, the draft odds are reactive to news and like rumors that are put out there. Dude, on April 12th last year, CJ Stroud was minus 200 to go first overall to the Panthers, and then 3 days later it flipped. It was Bryce Young.
Okay, so wasn't that then predictive of what took place?
No, it was incorrect. CJ Stroud did go first overall. It reacted once it was reported that Bryce Young was going to be the pick. I promise you, they reacted.
Okay, so at what point then are they actually predictive and not reactive? Because you're trying to make the claim right now that because the odds are in favor of Jayden Daniels, that means nothing because they're reactive. Yet you look at Caleb Williams, and that's predictive. So
we all know Caleb Williams is going 1 overall. They're not predictive. It's now like
it's predictive. It hasn't happened yet. It is predictive. That's what the odds are. What they are.
Okay. Have you heard anything that indicates that Jayden Daniels is the number 2 pick? Have you talked to? Are you in like a super handsome former quarterback club with Cliff Kingsbury, and you guys like message each other? And he's like, "Hey, bro, like we're taking Jayden Daniels 2 overall." Did you get kicked out of that club recently? Like, what's up with that?
Nope, still in that club. It's been a little quiet though in the chat as we get closer to all this. You lobster, you. I'm gonna stick to the script because we like veered so far off course as far as our matchmaking for these. I have Jayden Daniels best fit, not with the Washington Commanders, even though I do believe he'll go number 2 overall, as the odds predict. I've got him going to the New York Giants. And for this reason,
really,
I think when you look at Brian Daboll and his ability to work with a young quarterback, put him in a position to succeed. I mean, you can even look at this short sample size with Tommy DeVito early on, wasn't great. Then he started to kind of find a rhythm, and he showed out a little bit. I think if you look at that roster too, in order for the Giants to be successful, unless they add in a lot of other pass catchers and playmakers, they need a quarterback who can run. And he's the one quarterback in this class that I think is a true dual threat you can implement in the running game to be a part of that. So to me, Jayden Daniels would be kind of that high tide that would help elevate the talent around him. They've invested a lot in the offensive line, not so much in the skill players. And obviously Saquon's not there anymore, even though they got Devin Singletary. So in my mind, I'm like, all right, what guy could help maximize the running game, help maximize or limit what you see defensively a little bit? Jayden Daniels would be that because of him being a running threat and how that may help simplify some of what defenses can do against him.
I like where you're going there, Brady. But to your point, like you said, we don't see him getting past pick number 2. And I liken it to Cliff Kingsbury and his offense, right? When you look at the history of who Cliff has had, Caleb Williams, Kyler Murray, I think Jayden Daniels fits in that mold in regards to being a playmaker, not only throwing the ball, but running the ball too. And I think a facet of his game that isn't talked about enough, to me, he has the calmest feet in the pocket out of all these quarterbacks. Yes, people get enamored with him running for 1,000 yards, but when you break down the film, he's calm in the pocket, right? You never see him really panic in the pocket, and you see him make the big time throw. So he can beat you from within the pocket. He can also beat you outside of the pocket. So Cliff Kingsbury, and just knowing his history with athletic quarterbacks, I think to me the best fit is the Washington Commanders. And the good thing is, Brady, people are talking about he has 2, would-be first-round pick receivers from LSU. Well, he has 2 really good receivers at the Commanders, too, when you talk about John Dotson, a former first-round pick, and Terry McLaurin. So he's going to have some offensive firepower out there in Washington to use, even though they're picking 2 overall.
Dudes, I don't know if you know this, Josh McCown, former high school coach, one of the high school coaches of Drake May, now in Minnesota. Do you think the Vikings are a good fit if you're playing matchmaker for Drake May?
I honestly think they are going to trade up. It just depends on how much the Patriots, quote unquote, love or not in love with Drake May. I know they got Jacoby Brissett. They've already come out, Gerard Mayo, and said they're comfortable if they have to start Gerard Mayo. And Gerard Mayo can win in this league. He's proven that he can do that. And when he's been called or thrust upon to start and spot start, he's actually played really well. So I think
Jacoby Brissett, you mean? Jacoby Brissett.
What did I say?
Gerard Mayo.
Oh, sorry. Jacoby Brissett. I'm sorry. Jacoby Brissett has proven that he could be a spot starter in this league. So I can see the Patriots potentially trading out. And to your point, right, you talk about Drake May, former coach was Josh McCown. Also, there's rumors supposedly that the Vikings have an affinity for Drake May, and they signed Sam Darnold this offseason where Drake May wouldn't have to necessarily start this season. I think he actually needs a year to sit and learn behind a veteran before coming in. We saw all the talent in the arm placement and what he has, but we also saw the inconsistencies this year when he lost a guy like Josh Downs last year. So I think the Minnesota Vikings make a lot of sense. I think they could potentially even trade up to go get Drake May.
I like the Vikings for Drake May, in part because of the McCown connections, which makes some sense. I also think about what he didn't have during the first half of the year without Tez Walker and what things looked like, where people were pretty critical of his play. And so I feel like if you give him Justin Jefferson, if you give him Jordan Addison, you're going to see the best of him. And I also think he's capable of running some of the boots, some of the move the pocket passes that Kevin O'Connell wants to do within that offense. So for me, I think the Minnesota Vikings would be a really good fit scheme wise, really good fit personnel wise for Drake May to maximize and see what he's capable of.
Yeah. Look, and I think there's also a chance, in my mock, I had Jayden Daniels falling to the Vikings, or the Vikings trading up to 5 where they took Jayden Daniels. The point I was really trying to make wasn't necessarily I think Jayden Daniels will fall, just that I think there's a possibility that the Vikings could get to 5 and get a quarterback, because there's a chance that the Cardinals at 4 may very well say, all right, we're not moving out of 4 unless we get a future first-round pick. And I think it's going to be hard for people to really give up that future first-round pick to move all the way up there. I think you get to 5 easier. So, yeah, like Drake May could have gone there instead. If Jayden Daniels goes 2, there's a decent chance we see Drake May fall to 4, fall to 5, maybe because – if you want to get weird, is it possible J.J. McCarthy and the Patriots are a good match? Michigan ties, Brady? I have no idea.
That's what I was thinking. You got a former Michigan quarterback, won a national championship. Why not bring in a J.J. McCarthy to try to not immediately fall in the footsteps of, but the Michigan quarterback who brought you so much glory there. I also think it's going to be a team that, if you look at Alex Van Pelt, their offensive coordinator, coming from the Cleveland Browns, they were 4th last year in the NFL in rushing. You know who else was 4th in rushing last year? Michigan in the Big Ten. So it could make some sense where you've got that sort of offense that isn't going to force him to have to necessarily carry the team, very similar to what he experienced in Michigan, but ask him to make throws when called upon, which he did also at Michigan. So I think from a scheme standpoint, personality, character, all the things they're looking for kind of fits that like New England style, good old Michigan quarterback there.
I went with the actual Giants, right? And it was kind of what you were talking about with Jayden Daniels in regards to Brian Daboll being the head coach. I kind of liken that to J.J. McCarthy too, because yes, Jayden Daniels is the clear-cut best athlete of the group, but J.J. McCarthy has some wheels as well. And we saw what Brian Daboll did with Daniel Jones, who has a similar game to J.J. McCarthy in regards to being able to get outside and throw on the move, but also the RPO game, even though they didn't run it a lot at Michigan. I think that's something that can translate to the next level when you see J.J. McCarthy make those tight window throws over the middle. He's one of the best quarterbacks at throwing those tight window throws. And I think, with Brian Daboll and the Giants, even though they have so many other needs, if they feel like they can upgrade at the quarterback position and get a rookie deal out of it, I think it makes a lot of sense for the Giants to maybe even stay pat and be able to get J.J. McCarthy and not have to move up 1 or 2 spots at the number 6 spot and take J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah, and worst case is, the Giants can jump up to 4 if he falls there, and you just, the Cardinals say, all right, we're getting one of Neighbors or Marvin Harrison Jr. We'll just move down to 6. Not a bad trade possibility for Arizona there. All right, 2 more guys to talk about who sort of fit in. Like, at this point, we'd be shocked if any of the top 4 guys got out of the top 10, right? It feels like those 4 guys but like Michael Penn.
It depends on what I think at pick 6 is the question mark. If McCarthy or May fall past 6, teams would probably call up, but I could see maybe a slide to like 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
Wow, that would be shocking, because it feels like Michael Penix is a guy, dudes, who's been slotted in at like 13th with the Raiders, which is where you have him matched up as possibly going.
Yeah, for sure. I've been beating this drum for a while. Brady knows this. I mean, we did one mock where I had a little fun and gave the Dallas Cowboys Michael Penix Jr. because of the contract situation
That was
with
the
Dak
first
Prescott.
one. Yeah, that was the
Yeah. But when my perfect draft for the Raiders, I had them taking Penix at 13 overall. And Brady, I've been saying this for the longest. He's the best deep ball thrower in college football last year. To me, probably processes the best out of all these quarterbacks as well. And then when you look at the Raiders, what they have on offense with the, Devontae Adams and also Jacoby Myers, like this is a team that actually wants to throw the ball down the field. And there's nobody better at doing that than Michael Penix Jr. And you also already brought in a veteran quarterback in Gardner Minshew. So not necessarily do you have to play Penix this year, but I would not even be surprised if this is a scenario if they draft him where like Russell Wilson, in a Matt Flynn situation where Penix outduels Minshew and ends up being the starter on the opening week. So I think Michael Penix Jr., a lot of people may say this is too high for him, but I always said, Brady, if the medical cleared, he's a top 15 pick for me. So pick 13 is right in that mode. I think it makes a lot of sense for the Raiders.
His tape makes him a top 10 pick. I mean, I've said that since day one. His tape's phenomenal. So I'm not going to speak to the medical portion. I also have the Las Vegas Raiders being a good fit for this reason. You're going to be throwing a lot to Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL and reminds me of one of the best wide receivers coming out of the draft. That's Rome Odunze. And it's odd how eerily similar they are in size.
Correct.
So Odunze is more about 6'3", so he's a little taller than Devontae Adams,
yeah.
but they weighed the exact same at the combine, 212 pounds apiece. How big are their hands? Glad you asked. Devontae Adams, 9 inches. Rome Odunze, 9 1/4. What about their arms, right? Wingspan, arm length, all that good stuff. Rome Odunze, 32 1/2. And for those who don't know math, Devontae Adams, 32 5/8. All right. Yeah, a little bit more there. But if you look at them, the way you break them down, very similar skill set, right? They're oftentimes Penix was looking downfield, looking for Odunze. That was kind of part of how they operated there in Seattle. And I think that's going to be what he's asked to do. Now, great, on Jacoby Myers, you pointed out, dudes, he's going to be a part of it. But I think for that team, that personnel, even that system, I think he'd make a lot of sense.
Correct.
All right. Bo Nix, Sean Payton. One word answer, yes or no?
Yes, 100%. Second round, though.
The closest thing you could say to Drew Brees as far as
correct
percentage accuracy and all that.
Bo Nix, Drew Brees, second round pick to the Chargers, obviously signed with the Saints in free agency. Worth noting, Broncos don't have a second round pick. Could see if Bo Nix falls out of the first round, which I think seems likely at this point, or would be surprised. It wouldn't be shocking if he went first round, but I don't think it would be crazy if Sean Payton called up the Panthers and said, "I'll give you next year's first for the 33rd overall pick," and you go get Bo Nix at 33 there. Carolina would love to get a future first, I think, after the fiasco that was the Bryce Young trade. All right, let's take a break.
Before we take a break, or could they consider trading out of the 12 spot to gain a second round pick?
Yeah, for sure. Trade down and get Bo Nix, because I think if you're 12, 12's a little rich for Bo Nix. We all agree, I think, as well.